And there's a 9.5 point difference between the spread and the total in that game. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why.
Go under. I'm locking that up.
They're not going to score. Probably.
I'm locking it up. All right, welcome in a Thursday edition of the Awesemo Odds Show on the Awesemo Betting Channel. We appreciate you hanging with us, the three of us, myself, Ben Rasa, Mike Awesemo's producing, and you with the Lock It Up play. Make sure you come in the chat. We ask now 3 things. Normally, every other show only asks you to do 2 things. Here, we add a third element, and really it's interactive because we trust you and your directions where you're looking at to bet. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and leave us a Lock It Up play. The most confident play you have for tonight, college, NFL, across the board, college basketball. We have hockey plays in the chat. We have NBA plays. Now I'm sure we'll have an abundance of college basketball plays. Ben, I'm surprised that your head is even on straight right now, and it hasn't exploded with the addition of college basketball on your plate. I know betting you each and every Wednesday. You guys handle the college world, you and Matt, but my goodness, man, on top of everything else you're doing, just to spend 30 minutes with us, we're grateful.
Oh, it's a great time. I love college sports. I love college basketball. Just getting into it, only a couple days old. We got to see some things. You know, as much as I'd love to get crazy, I'm pretty selective at the beginning of the year. Got a great game tonight. I think this is a pretty interesting Thursday night football game, 7.5-point spread. We got World Cup qualifiers are going on today. There is all sorts of stuff to talk about in the betting world.
Now, there's an old adage in movie writing, or I think it's maybe coming from screenplays, where you can't bring in a smoking gun or a gun without firing it off. So you can't mention, and I'm sure it destroyed whatever analogy that is, but you can't mention World Cup qualifiers on a betting show and not expect somebody either on the chat or me to bring it back. You know that, right?
Yeah, we'll see what we can do there. I mean, a lot of these games are like you got Germany and Liechtenstein playing. That's going to be kind of lopsided, as they say, considering it's a 6-goal spread. There's not a lot out there, but we'll see maybe at the end if we can sneak 1 or 2 in there.
Absolutely, my friend. All right. Let's get it going here. I see the usual suspects in the house jamming it up already. Bloomfield, Shelton, Greg S.J., Berger. We're going to get to everybody here as far as a lock it up play before we get out, including our own. And mine is switched. Before the show began, I was going to go NFL, but Ben talked me into going somewhere else in college.
Don't blame that. No, I want no part of whatever witchcraft you are pulling in the college ranks. I think this game tonight is one that, you know, I on the breakfast menu broke it down with Greg Ehrenberg a little bit. Originally, I was like, I really don't want to mess around with the Ravens too much. But the more I looked at this game, the more interest I had on across the board in terms of player props, which we'll certainly get to, and even a side.
All right, well, let's start there. And again, BetMGM is powering everything going on here on the show. So take advantage. We have links below for you to click on, and you're going to get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum just when you make your first deposit and bet on BetMGM. It's incredible. You can take advantage of that, $10, and we can go from there. You mentioned talking about this on the breakfast menu side. We'll get to some props, and then specifically, we'll show you all how the benefits of OddsShopper continue to just pay off night and day. I've a nice, juicy, 2 juicy one same game player prop parlay, the other across the board on Sunday, that all I did was go to OddsShopper, and it basically just told me what to do. So I can't wait to win money the easy way. Let's start, though. You mentioned even a side. So maybe you weren't looking at the hook there, or maybe the hook was enough of a deterrent for you. I'm not going to bury my lead. You already know where I'm going to go when it's my turn, and nothing has changed with the short week Thursday night, especially with the better team on the road. Where to begin, though, because at 7.5, I didn't want any part of this until hopefully I could get Baltimore at 7. But I'm curious, what side did you like at 7.5?
I like the Dolphins in the game. I think it's a continuation of some of the things you've talked about. Short week, they're at home. It's not the easiest spot. And Baltimore is a team that I think has shown clearly their ceiling is better than 7.5 points in a spot like that. But their floor is they lose this game a lot. And we've seen them play down to a lot of teams. They've played a lot of close games throughout the year. And they're even coming off, week 9 at home against a Minnesota team that just lost to Cooper Rush. And what happens? Lamar makes a miraculous comeback and they win that game by 3 points in overtime at home. I mean, that's not exactly what you want to see. I think if you're a Ravens backer, this is a pretty methodical total, 46.5 point total, nothing alarming there. You're going to give me the hook. I think on Thursday Night Football, if you're giving me north of a touchdown with the home dog, I'm probably going to side on that more often than not. The Dolphins are not a good team, but they're, maybe they're better than I thought. I declared them the worst team in the league. That might have been a little strong, but regardless, I think we see in the NFL week after week, Eitan, I mean, the worst teams in the league apparently can beat the best. I mean, the Jags just took down the Bills. So you're going to give me the north of a touchdown. I'm going with the Dolphins.
Two things. One, I think that it speaks into how I see the game exactly playing out. And I can basically cut and paste what you said. The only thing I would change is not Miami plus 7.5, but under 23.5 first half for the total. And to take a look at that 46.5, and I think both play into it where Miami's not staying in this game in a shootout. Like, I don't see that play out. Of all the scenarios that could play out, it's the one in my mind, at least, that happens the least amount of times, right? Which is, it's 38-37, 38-31, and here come the Dolphins, hanging on in a shoot. That's what I don't see. Now, Baltimore playing slower, trying to get out of there, doing just enough, short week, as we've seen this be the theme each and every week, really. That makes more sense. A slower game, a slower pace game. You can move the ball on the ground, clearly chunks with your quarterback as well. Not to say they won't take shots down the field, but yeah, I look at it the same exact way. And that's why I really like, and I say this each and every week, and I feel like it pays out more often than not, going under 23.5 is not ideal. I would like it at 24. So if you wanted to try and work it, and maybe if you can get it, and just looking at it right here on BetMGM as we talk through this thing, it's at 23.5. If it does pop up at 24, even with the push and play, I don't mind laying a little bit more on that. But also, the second thing I was going to then throw back and ask you is, because we're going to talk about other teams, and we're going to talk about specifically Pittsburgh, and we're going to talk about specifically Dallas. How teasable is Miami now at plus 7.5?
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's funny with teasers. I think most people, including me, to be honest, you tend to tease favorites down rather than dogs up. I get that. I worry about kind of what I said at the beginning. I think there's still, people are going to say, well, he's backing Miami. Why would you say this? I still think there's Baltimore, when they get going, they can kill teams. And that's what I worry about. We saw that against the Chargers. If they're running the ball and you can't stop it, it could get out of hand quickly. I just think, again, it's not about that. If Miami loses by 8 tonight or 80, it's the same result. You lose the bet. There's no cumulative effect. And so I just worry about a teaser, because I think that when Baltimore covers, they kind of cover going away a lot. So I think for me, I'm backing what you're talking about. I want a slow, methodical game. They're coming off an overtime game, a short week. The optics, I think, do favor Miami team, who, again, their quarterback is banged up. They've got a lot of issues, but at the same time, they've shown that they can kind of hang in defensively. I think they're pretty sound. And Lamar did. We're going to talk about him a lot, of course. He's putting a lot of weight on the legs now. I mean, he had 21 carries for $120 against the Vikings. If he has to keep running like that, I do worry about the long-term effects of how many carries he can take. I'm not saying they're not going to run him tonight, but I'm sure Baltimore would rather gear him down late if they have that luxury.
A lot of money, and look, we're getting closer and closer to the game itself, so more tickets come in, and this is not just like trends. Every piece of data should be taken on the surface and never used as anything definitive by any means. But if you look at just the breakdown of how much, I'm looking at it here in PA at least, how much we're getting as far as like 80% of the 22.5K bets are coming in on Baltimore, yet the money is split. So smaller amount of bets with larger money have taken Miami. It's all, and looking at that, Ben, we've seen this. It did open at 7. It must have been there for a split second where this thing was then heavily bet to 7.5, but it has capped. It hasn't moved as much as people like yourself and other sharp individuals have put their money where their mouth is on the Miami Dolphins. It's not going to drop through 7. Still, it's only moved a half a point since this thing is opened, which is surprising to me because on the surface, you have a team in Baltimore who is much better on paper than Miami.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the NFL. It's hard, no matter who you're playing on the road. It's just hard to blow a team out, to win by double digits on the road, never mind on a short week. So, again, I think there's some concern about how effective will Tua be? How effective is Tua even if he didn't have the finger issue? Can they get anything out of Gaskin and the backfield? Where does it come from? Is it all Waddle? I mean, what else are they going to give you? You got Gesicki as well. So I'm not, Miami's going to have to make some plays. It's not like they're just going to stifle Baltimore where they're not going to have to put up points. But again, if you're going to tell me this leans under the total, 7.5 becomes very, very pertinent. And of course, we know that's a very key number, that hook. So I do still lean to the Dolphins, even though, of course, on paper, Baltimore is the better team.
All right, we'll look at a couple of player props here. Move into Odd Shopper as well for a nice prop parlay. Before that, though, reminder, not only hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed. Continue to help us build and get closer to that 5K, then 10K. We're going to keep upping the number as we've reached and now surpassed that 2K. But I see Bloomfield has doubled up on the lock it up. That's what we ask here. All right, so feel free. NBA, NHL, nothing is off limits. A player prop in the NBA you'd like to throw at us, that's fine. Bloomfield is doubled up. Michigan laying the 1.5. Says it has to be in the round robin this week, Rasa. And then Nova +4 tomorrow. That's moved because that was at 3 just yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an interesting game. UCLA, a lot of people really think they're going to be good. I'm not one of those people. I guess we'll find out a little tomorrow. I mean, they're coming off a ridiculous run in the tournament. We'll have some time for that, no doubt about it. I mean, is there anything I want to ask you before we kind of dig in, starting to look at player props? 46.5. You mentioned you like those first half unders, certainly been effective. Do you have anything for the game total, or do you think maybe you're just looking kind of for that first half line?
So I feel, and this is a very specific spectrum, I guess I'm looking at this game with or through, and I recognize that. But I like the first half under because I think the theme stays the same this week. But in the whole counter to what people believe is going to happen in Thursday night football games, I do think Miami's going to get on the board. And I do feel like I'm going to sweat that's why I want 24.5, because I want that field goal built in where I can have that push still in play or the hook in my favor. I feel like I'm going to sweat this first half under. So I'm not going to make a play on the under because I wonder if Miami gets on the board first, and it has to be Miami, I think, more so than Baltimore. Ben, you tell me what you think here. But I think the total is more inclined to move up at a higher clip if Miami is the first team that scores, or if Miami gets a touchdown, let's say, in the first quarter, than Baltimore, which is more expected as a result. So if I could get that live total to 49, 50, maybe even 51 following a Miami touchdown, that's where I would take a chomp at it live under. But otherwise, I think I'm just going to play the first half under, sweat that, and then take advantage of a score for Miami and live bet the under.
Yeah, I mean, and Baltimore has shown, I feel like several games, and this is why they get into these really close. They start slow a lot. I mean, I can think of multiple games where they ended up winning, where it looked like they were just not going to be able to do it. Certainly the Colts game comes to mind. That was an island game, the Minnesota game, and certainly even just going back to obviously Detroit, they were dead to rights before the 65-yard field goal. Kansas City was a 1-point win. They lost to Las Vegas in week 1. Just a lot of very, very close games. So if that's the case, again, you're going to see a Baltimore team that's going to put a lot of pressure on Lamar. I think it's extremely correlated, his rushing prop, to the other team being effective. If Baltimore is rolling, Lamar, ironically, is kind of geared down. If they're in trouble, he takes it upon himself to bring them back. We saw that last week against Minnesota. I have a feeling we see that again tonight. I think they will be under pressure to stay and get a much needed win here. You got to win this game if you're Baltimore.
So we've laid out, I think, a general game script and flow that we both agree on, which doesn't always happen by any means.
No.
And I'm curious now to look at how this factors in. We have the quarterback scenario tonight. You and I have had this conversation before, so I don't feel like I'm fully putting words in your mouth, where outside of player props, the side, the total, the game flow, doesn't really matter who the quarterback is.
No, I don't think so.
So one thing that is interesting is who gets the football if it's Brissett versus who gets the football if it's Tua. Now, an easy place, I think, to start here with player props might actually be with rushing and rushing yards, because it's not just Lamar who's an easy place to start, but we've got two Miami backs where there might be a nice pathway or maneuverability, if you will, to make some money, because we both believe that it's going to be low scoring and Miami ultimately hanging in this game, which could mean more carries, more yards for their two backs. Could,
definitely could. I mean, certainly when you're winning the game and in the game, that does help. Miami's a team that, I don't know, I struggle sometimes with exactly what they do, and they have one of the highest pass rates in the league. They're passing the ball 66% of the time. I mean, that's very, very high. So that they don't use a dedicated run game. Now, part of that's a product that they're trailing more often than not. But even so, they've just got two backs that aren't getting a lot of love. I mean, right now, Gaskin's rushing prop is 39.5. Ahmed is 16.5. That's just not getting it done. So I think part of it is that Waddle is kind of like, those plays are almost runs. It's such a low ADOT. Those screens, those little dump ball, like Waddle gets a lot of plays. And I think they kind of use that to supplement a running game. And he is one guy, Greg brought this up on the breakfast menu with me. When Tua is in there, Waddle really gets peppered. Yep. I mean, he's busy a lot, but Tua locks on them. They've got the Alabama connection. It's hard to imagine that Waddle isn't busy tonight, pretty much in any game script.
I think it's the exact opposite. And another shout to Ehrenberg, because he brought this up on the NHA show, No House Advantage show I did with him, where it's all of that productivity seems to pile on Waddle with Tua.
Yep.
Versus Gesicki becomes invisible. And I feel like he mentioned how the numbers truly differ when it's Tua. So if Tua's starting, you might be better off fading the tight end across the board.
I mean, I do think that the only part, like with my bet, 7.5, I prefer Tua, but I'm not going to be that deterred if something, like if Tua's that hurt where they need to, I'm glad he's not out there, because obviously I don't want him playing injured. It would affect, I think, some of the player props a little more. A guy like Waddle, 5.5 receptions. I think you want Tua in there for that if you're leaning over.
Tight end spot, a little different, though.
Tight end, obviously, yeah, you mentioned Gesicki. He seems to be better with Brissett locking onto him. This is a guy that he's not going to see the target share that Waddle's going to have, but the targets are more valuable. In theory, he should be more likely to score. I'm kind of neutral on him, I'll be honest. His receptions prop is 4.5. Seems about right. Again, I'm hoping that Miami isn't desperately playing catch up so that the passing volume across the board is somewhat mitigated.
So I think this is a wait and see scenario where I look at, okay, if Jacoby Brissett is starting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compound the likelihood that Gesicki scores and look at what I can get for him to score at any time and possibly a multiple. Because if Miami is in the red zone, if Miami's looking to, we've seen this already, the connection that Brissett has with Gesicki versus Tua, which is non-existent. So all of a sudden now, 3, I think, props come into play here if Brissett's starting. And that's anytime TD for Gesicki. That's multiple touchdowns. If you wanted to go, BetMGM has it at plus 900. And then the over 4.5 receptions, I think, also comes into play. It's at minus 110, which isn't terrible. I think it probably should be closer to even money, but still, with Brissett in there, it's got a better chance of starting. If it's Tua, scratch everything. Just erase everything I just said, and now you start at Waddle with over 5.5 receptions, and I think we have to go to the Rasa market, as I've coined it here on this and other shows, the over 21.5 longest reception for Waddle as well, because now you're factoring in a little bit more of a game script here that plays into Waddle becoming a target as well as a deeper target.
I mean, Waddle certainly, he gets his chances. There's no doubt about that. He really gets targets. It's been a low ADOT, but he is an explosive player in that regard at times. I'd like to see him maybe be a little more of a deep threat than this. I mean, it hasn't really materialized, but he's also, Miami struggled for a lot of different reasons. They're missing guys constantly with Parker and Fuller and those guys. It puts a tremendous strain on the remaining pass catchers. So on that side, I think we have to play wait and see. On the Baltimore side, it's a little more known. We know what they're going to do. We know the personnel that they have. The only guy that I think we need to keep an eye on is Sammy Watkins. It looks like he's trending towards coming back. So that's going to just be another guy for Bateman and Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. Certainly on the showdown mentality and the DFS side, we'll be talking about that later in the day. But from a betting standpoint, I don't think that's a huge deal.
Anything else before we hit the prop parlay on Odd Shopper? Anything with Lamar on the ground? Anything else that we missed?
So I think Lamar specifically is correlated. I said this before, but I just kind of want to put it in a different context. If Miami starts fast and you have the ability to bet props live, I think that you should go over Lamar's rushing yards at 63.5 or wherever it is at that point, barring that he hasn't done something miraculous already, because when he is in competitive games, he takes it. You know, Lamar, I said this the other day, and I feel very confident in saying this. If Lamar wants to rush for upwards of 100 yards, he can. There's no way to stop it. It's just, okay, is he willing to take the carries and consolidate the rushing upside in that game? He will if he has to. If not, I'm going to bring up week 6 against the Chargers. They dominated 34-6. Lamar had 8 carries in that game. Against Minnesota, the game went to overtime, 21 carries. Cincinnati, they were blown out, 12 for 88. Indy, wild game, 14 carries. Denver, they win by 16 points, 7 carries. When they're in full control, Lamar does not run nearly as much as competitive games. So if you see Miami looking like it's going to be competitive, I think Lamar's rushing yards comes with that.
Awesome advice, man, especially because I feel like a lot of what we do, and you and I add Lofty in there as well on our chat, is taking advantage of circumstance live. And I feel like we prepare a lot of people for that, to where it's not just, hey, lock into a play, but there are plenty of opportunities where if it's something we talk about as far as a trend or a theme or anything leading into a game, and it doesn't start out that way, it doesn't mean that's how it's going to be. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden the game is completely flopped. So that's awesome. I'm definitely going to pay attention to that right away, because here in PA, we have the ability to jump on player props live. Speaking of player props, let's hit it. The Odd Shopper prop parlay.
There it is. Awesome. This is your scene. You've been living in the prop parlay world. I have seen you go on Odd Shopper and look at the parlay and string some of these props together. Where do you think you're getting your party started?
Well, what I love is, and again, I am in PA where it's legal, but if you go and search by state here on Odd Shopper, every place where you can legally place a wager, soon to be, once the 51% goes through, Ben Rasa up in New York, although I have a sneaking suspicion that you may be in Connecticut and New Jersey.
Yeah, I can get to Connecticut very quickly.
I was going to say, you may be in Connecticut. The IRS may notice you in Connecticut a little bit more over the last year. That's fine. But point being is that what I do is I go to Pennsylvania and I go to 2 different sortable areas. It's either the expected win, largest to smallest, or expected ROI, largest to smallest. I know you're an ROI guy. You guys are all numbers and data driven here. So let's start there. And what I'll do is right away, I'm given the opportunity to bet a prop party parlay. And in this case, it's 5. Now, it's not on with Mike, but for me, I have it here in PA. And it's 5 different plays. Ahmed at under 8.5 receiving yards. And it also has the expected win percentage above each of them. So he's at under 8.5 receiving yards plus 100 even money with a 79% win percentage. Patterson's there with rushing yards under 41.5. Howard is there rushing yards under 48.5. Jefferson from Minnesota there with receptions under 5.5. And all of these are by win total. And then the last one is Goff, Detroit, passing yards at under 238.5. So correct me if I'm wrong, but none of these games have guys going up in the same game.
No, I don't believe so.
So you're given an expected ROI of 387%, but the expected win is 17%, which, look, I know somebody just coming in, stumbling in from the DFS or season long is thinking 17%. The hell is that? 17% for a 5-leg player prop parlay is close to as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the beauty of Odd Shopper is that it puts you in control and it gives you a glimpse of all the different props, and then you're free to create your own permutations, and you can tell stories, you can build narratives of how you see the games going and kind of work from there. So you've got that option of saying, okay, you know, some of these games, I think they're going to be really low scoring. I might take a couple guys under in that game, and I'm going to pair them up with a game that I think could be very competitive. And it's the kind of situation even tonight. You know, if you think the Dolphins are out ahead, to me, Lamar Jackson's over for rushing yards is a really good play. How did the Dolphins get ahead? Well, maybe Waddle gets going, so you have the over for him, and you kind of link things up within the same game parlay, or you can mix and match on Sundays. So when we look at these prop parlays, you obviously can sort by ROI, and Alex and the team do a great job of giving you at least some insight into some of the bets that we think right now there's an edge to be had. And that's really the best advice we can give, is lean on the tools and find your groove. Some people want to go for I saw the boss man tweet out last night, a 13 team player prop parlay. Obviously that's going for the swinging for the fences, or you can go for a couple and try to double your money, 3x, 4x. There's obviously a sweet spot, and for each person that's different.
Yeah, very few people on the planet you can argue with the swinging for the fences strategy that's worked so well for our boss.
It was you should have seen that parlay. It was I had to scroll to see all the legs. It was ridiculous.
Did it involve last night, or is it all for like football?
No, yeah, it was 13 NBA props.
Oh, so we missed it. It's all for last night.
We missed it. But we'll know if he's not on the show tonight with me. I assume that means that he hit it for like a couple $1 million and he's just retired. If not, I will ask him about it 8:00 tonight when we are talking DFS Showdown.
I would think that, I mean, for you, maybe $1 million, you'd take the day off. But I would think for a guy who can just shake his pockets and $1 million falls out, it would take a little more for Alex to retire.
Well,
don't you think?
It's all about the screenshot life. That's what, and it's true, by the way, you know, not to transition to a different segment, but our Hall of Fame, you know, we've been seeing the love on the DFS side. It's been fantastic. People with major hits. If you are using our tools and you hit a good parlay or you hit a great bet, at Shander Show, at Jazz Raz DFS, at Awesemo Odds, we want to know about it. We'll throw it up on the screen. We'll give you guys some love. We're gonna have some cool giveaways associated with it. So if you're betting these, we want the credit. We want you guys to have the credit. Definitely share those screenshots.
I have two that I built for this weekend specifically from Odd Shopper before we hit college. Lock it up. We have a bunch of people adding to the lock it up on the chat. We appreciate that. Thumbs up, subscribe, take advantage of BetMGM's promo. It's in that link below. We're going to give you 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All right, real quick tonight, it's a 3-leg same game parlay. Again, I took the best winning percentage for player props for tonight and used sliders where you should. So I didn't take this. 2 of 3, I used sliders, meaning I went, in this case, over or under. I went either over the lowest number or under the highest number to give me some wiggle room. Does that make sense as I explained it? I know you know what I'm talking about. I just want to make sure it makes sense what I'm explaining. Okay. So Ahmed is over now, 14 rushing yards, 14 plus rushing yards. So I've dropped his total a couple of yards. I went over because that's the strongest of the strongest plays Odd Shopper's giving me there on win percentage. Under Myles Gaskin rushing yards, this is the straight play at 54.5, and then 14 plus completions for Lamar. And that nets me at plus 195.
I mean, like I said, I think the beauty of the same game stuff is you're able to correlate. The books are allowing you to tell that story, just like Showdown. Some guys' props are impacted by other guys' props. So if some of those dominoes fall, your other remaining legs are at a much higher percentage to cash. And I think if you're doing that correctly, I mean, the books are just giving money away with some of these opportunities. It's a really good time to take advantage.
All right, I'm going to give you the Odd Shopper Shander player prop parlay of the week. Meaning this is something that I have created off of Odd Shopper. You cannot blame me. This is not witchcraft. This is not anything mysterious. This is all sanctioned by our own site. Okay. Blame them for unleashing a monster, Ben.
Okay.
Ready?
Noted. I got my Sharpie. I'm writing it all down.
This is for the Bloomfields out there, all right, who've been salivating for something outlandish and ridiculous. It's a 4-pick parlay at plus 1232. A $50 wager will get you 666 and 16 cents. It has to hit. It has to hit off of that alone.
Sure.
Right? I say there's no witchcraft, and the return is 666. I'm going to send you a screen cap because you know I can't make this up. All right, here's the foreplay real quick. Ahmed, again, we're going back to him. He's the well here that we can't keep getting away from. Under 1.5 receptions, over 24.5 completions for Matt Ryan, over 250.5 passing yards for Jared Goff, under 20.5 for Williams on the Chiefs there against the Raiders. That's receiving yards, pardon me, for Williams. Plus 1232. All courtesy of Odd Shopper.
There you go. Courtesy of Odd Shopper. Again, the beauty of it, there are a million different options for you out there. You can go to games that are, say you're at the bar and you want to only sweat games that you're watching. You're home. You can do that. You got filters on the left. You can find whatever games you want, whatever players you want, and you can build any which way. You're obviously using the entire board to give you the most options, the most upside, but just find what works for you. And obviously stay tuned because we have a lot more coming from the tools and all the things that Odd Shopper provides.
All right, my friend, let's hit some college action. We have a big one tonight, at least on the scoreboard. I've already locked in under 73, so you can't sway me any other way.
What do you have?
Under 73 tonight in the UNC Pitt game.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's down to 72 now.
Look at you moving markets here. Yeah, I mean, we just saw what happened. I mean, Wake Forest is Wake Forest, but these are teams. North Carolina doesn't play any defense. Pittsburgh certainly doesn't play any defense. Competitive game. It would be over or pass for me, I'll be honest, but not on my card. That's going to be a very interesting game, though. I can never tell how good Pittsburgh is.
UNC's moved. It was at 7, 6.5, was at 6 for a little bit. Our buddy John Shelton brought them up on the show I was just doing, and they were down to 6. They bumped back up to 6.5. I don't know if you have a play on the side there. I just look, it's again, it's not to the extent of the NFL. I'm not even applying the same line of thinking here, but we've seen offenses. Ole Miss seems to be one of them that comes back recurring, where the expectation is, oh, it's going to be a crazy shootout here. And it's not a MAC game, right? It's not two teams that have just been thrown together on a Tuesday night. This is a Thursday night game. I don't know if you can get to 72, but again, I respect your play on that by all means, and I'll probably burst it. Did you have any look on the side? Or are you staying away from this game in its entirety?
I'll probably staying away in its entirety. Maybe if it starts slow, I'll lean over live, but it's just the ACC all year has been very difficult because I think the league is down. And on that note, Bloomfield just mentioned about Notre Dame. They play Virginia this week. Virginia's quarterback's a little banged up. I actually think that Notre Dame's going to handle them. I'm not a fan of the ACC. Wake was undefeated in record, but I think most people realized they weren't that good. Now they've got a loss. Pittsburgh lost to Western Michigan earlier in the year. UNC's got a ton of losses. Clemson's awful. I'm not even talking about Florida State. Honestly, the team in the ACC playing pretty well is Miami of all teams, and they are a 2.5-point favorite at Florida State. I actually think that's a pretty good spot. Miami's down to their third-string quarterback. He's been actually fantastic. They found something with this guy. They went into Pittsburgh and won. They've beat NC State. They're playing really well. Florida State's a disaster. So I think Miami in the rivalry game will get it done this week.
I'm locked in at Notre Dame. I got him at 5.5 on Tuesday.
So do I.
It hasn't moved. I thought it might move because I don't know, maybe there would be more conversation about Virginia's quarterback, but it looks like we've hit the ceiling maybe on that convo. He's going to play.
I would assume he plays, but regardless, even if he does play 5.5, I think
I'm fine with that.
Me and Magajeski, betting you our exclusive betting podcast. It drops Wednesday night. You can go check that out anywhere podcasts are available, just, or on the Awesemo homepage, find our podcast feed. We talked about that game extensively, and the advantages that Notre Dame has across the board are pretty pronounced. They're able to run the ball. Their quarterback's not great, but he's not awful. They've got guys on the outside. Virginia's defense is terrible. They shut out Duke. That doesn't matter. Duke is, the worst team in ACC. Other than that, they've been torched by everybody.
All right, so I was going to get to one more college play.
Please.
They just keep firing, though, on the chat, man. Shelton, the total's down to 71.5 in some spots, right? The under. SD with a team total over 33 for UNC.
I like that.
Bloomfield, keep firing on the Irish. You like going over 33 for UNC?
Yeah, I think they'll be able, Howell and co will be able to manufacture plenty of points tonight. I didn't bet it, but I would lean over there, yeah.
So the two games that I'm on the most, that I have the most invested in this weekend, you definitely mentioned it for me, and we're on the same page. Notre Dame laying the 5.5 at Virginia. The other one, and look, technically I was early on this. It is moving in the opposite direction. I don't care, and I'm sure there's been a time in your life where this has happened and you've thought the same thing. I don't care. I'm still fine with where I'm in, with where my placement is. I like Purdue at 20. I got them at 20. They're at 21 right now. They move the ball too well for me to just give up the fact that they're going to suffer this gigantic letdown. Teams have been struggling at Purdue. That's not something recent. It's not like, oh, man, they've sucked, and all of a sudden they got so far up from Michigan State that it's physically impossible to do anything. I don't think they're going to win the football game, Ben.
No.
But 20, and now it's at 21, seemed like it was too much for a team that could move the ball in the air and stay in a game even if they are down 14 to 17 points.
I mean, Ohio State's offense is really, really good. They're probably going to score upwards of 50 points, but that's one. If you like Purdue, I would wait till Saturday. You might get 21.5 at this point. All the money's coming in on the other side, as you mentioned. So no rush to the window there. If you do lean to Purdue, I think they're a pretty good team. I think Michigan State was just, you can only win so many of those games before one sneaks up on you. Ohio State, they haven't been they didn't look great against Nebraska, but they found something clearly with Stroud. Henderson's unbelievable. So you're a brave man, probably braver than me.
Yeah, look, I'm going to ride the Purdue train until I get kicked off. Washington, GW plus 18, lock it up.
I think I don't have it in front of me. I believe they play Maryland today. It's one of those teams, but I haven't looked at that game. I haven't bet that game. It's hard for me to know. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick.
How about this Evansville play earlier at
Evansville? Sure.
At 136.5.
Yeah, Maryland.
Ben Rasa. And now what is it right now? It's down to 133.
I see 130.
130.5. BetMGM has it. Come on. Now I sit at 135. I think I'm in okay shape here.
I mean, you've done your job. That's a game clearly from somewhere. There is steam coming, and you can chasing steam is a whole different show. Obviously, that can be effective. I didn't see that. I didn't jump on that. I'm not going to now. Clearly, you can't now, but I would love to have that ticket that you have. Clearly, it's a good spot.
I can't believe it moved like that.
Yeah, well, IUPUI, the Jaguars. There you go, people. The College of George Hill. That's the only thing I know about IUPUI. He went there.
All right, brother. Let's hit it. Lock it up. It's that time. And I was going to go something. Look, let me just get it out of the way. It's an easy, obvious one. I feel like it's on repeat, although we haven't done this every single week, to be fair. But this is another one. 23.5. I like it. It's not ideal. That hook, I need that 24.5 to feel great about it. I feel good about it enough where I'm going to play it. So I'm not going to give you something I'm not going to play. I'm going to go under 23.5. That's the initial, just get out of the way, lock it up. I'm tempted to hit you with that UConn Clemson, but I'm not going to embarrass myself.
No, don't do that.
With it at all. I'll tell you, I'm at 73. I'm looking at this here. I got in earlier this morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, under 73. It's down a little bit now, as we mentioned tonight. I don't think it gets to 72. I know you said over or pass, so we're maybe on quasi a different side here, but I'm going to lock up the total going under in this UNC Pittsburgh game. It's just way too much offense anticipated, and I feel like we're in one of these Ole Miss scenarios where everybody's guaranteeing 100 points, and you'll probably hit 54-60 when it's all said and done. Don't hate the UNC team total. If that goes over, my bet's usually crushed, but I'm going to lock up under 73, where I had it this morning, 72 now.
I like it. Before I give my lock it up here, a couple things real quick. One, if you guys have any questions, games that we didn't get to, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in Discord, get inside the ropes. And also, if you can show us some love, hit that like button. Let's push that up. Support the Awesemo Odds channel. We're growing slowly here, but we have a really loyal and great group for this show. We appreciate you guys watching, but if you can help us out with a like, it goes a long way. My lock it up, I'm going down with the ship as I always do.
Oklahoma
no. -5.5. Baylor, no. Baylor just lost to TCU. And listen, you can knock Oklahoma for a million different things, and almost all of them are legitimate. The one thing you can't knock them for, though, they got no losses on the season. They have won all these games. It's a 5.5-point spread in Waco. It's not the easiest spot, but the problem I have with Baylor is the strength of their team, what they want to do. They run the ball at one of the highest clips in the country. Oklahoma's defense has a lot of problems. One of them is not stopping the run. That is the teeth of the defense. So Baylor's strength is Oklahoma's strength. Oklahoma's defense on the secondary, they're over outside the top 100 in passing yards allowed per attempt. Baylor is one of the worst teams to potentially exploit that. I couldn't think of a worse offense, to be honest. So I don't think that they're going to be able to take advantage of that. On the other side, Oklahoma is much more dynamic offensively. Caleb Williams is clearly the answer. They've got the receivers. They've got the backs. I think they will score enough. It never looks pretty, but inside a touchdown for a Baylor team that just lost to TCU, I have to lock up Oklahoma. I'm going to ride with them until the wheels fall off.
Wow. That means we all have to tail you. I know you brought up on a show like last week or 2 weeks ago on how things start to fall off a precipice like pretty fast at the end of the week compared to how red hot you are early on.
Oh my God. I know this year has been ridiculous like that. Monday through Friday, I'm cruising. Saturday and Sunday, not great.
Did you ever consider that maybe Oklahoma has factored into that?
No, it's the Browns. It's the Browns, 100%. Believe me,
Oklahoma's the Browns of the NFL.
Oklahoma has been great only because of that Texas game. I had so many live tickets from that game.
Yes,
that sustained me for months. But no, it's true. And obviously, again, there's so much we're going to be doing here on Odd Shopper, on the Awesemo Odds channel, trying to get you guys the information you need to A, have some fun, and B, hopefully win some money. So lock up the Sooners this week. Let us know in the comments. If you're watching the show late and you're not here live, drop in your favorite bet of the week. We want to hear about it, and we certainly want you guys as part of this show going forward.
And let me say, before we get out of here, Kickstart, I'm not disappointed that Ben took Oklahoma. I'm disappointed that I have to tail because I tail Ben. He's the guy. He's who you follow here. I'm disappointed that I have to reluctantly.
We're all disappointed
Oklahoma now.
Okay. I'm disappointed. You think I want to bet them? I don't want to do it, but I have to. It is.
By the way, is this true? UConn hiring Jim Mora, right?
I don't know that. I just saw it in chat.
Like,
but that's...
Mike Awesemo, our producer, is saying the same thing here. Watch out. UConn, I'm telling you, man, UConn getting 41 on the road at Clemson. Watch out.
Yeah, watch out. That's it. That was a perfect way to end the show. Watch out for UConn.
Everybody.
Good luck, everyone. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Up. Yes, thank you. And please, I see a lot of you popping in late. Make sure you're subscribed before you get out of here. We'll see you Monday.